If I were to describe the 48 laws of power in one sentence, it would be teaching people how to play 4D chess while everyone else is still trying to play checkers and then wonder why they have no friends. Celebrities, CEOs, and even felons live by this book. If you've ever wondered why that one person that keeps getting promoted but is like the absolute worst at their job, it's because they read this book. This book is the ultimate guide on how to be an absolute narcissist. Like, this book is giving a masterclass on how to get revenge on someone since middle school narcissist vibes. But what if I told you you could use those exact same laws towards those same narcissistic people without being malicious or petty? If you know the rules to the game, then you know how to play by their rules. So instead of applying the laws at face value, what if you were to apply the laws for actually something good? After initially reading this book, I became more aware of the multiple laws that were being played against me, but then I dropped that reverse Uno and played those same laws against them. I know this sounds very cliche, but this book changed my whole perspective on the game that we call life. I'm going to teach you the ways how to use these very same laws and beat them at their own game by simply putting it down, flipping it, and reversing it. Is bird bit the flat yet? Is bird to be flat yet? Hello everyone, I am Nisha. Welcome to my channel, Speak of the Ether. This is my very first video, so I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Obviously this is going to be a series, but I decided to do something very ambitious by starting off my channel with the 48 laws of power, because I think it's very much needed for people to know and understand that these rules, these games are being played by this book, and a lot of people in power are holding the power because of this book. So I've been really pushing myself to do this because on the inside, my Sag moon is like, yeah! Yeah! Meanwhile, my Taurus sun is like,
what? Why? Why?
If you know, you know. But I am staying committed. I'm going to do this and I'm going to give you all 48 laws and then some. But before we dive in, I want to give full disclosure that any and all opinions that you hear and see on this video are fully my own and not endorsed. They are here for educational and entertainment purposes only. Starting off with power number 1, never outshine your master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please or impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite. Inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. This law is interesting because it's all about how the person who's holding the power feels. When dealing with the main character, all lights are on them, and over time, they tend to develop a sense of insecurity within themselves. Hence why they need the external validation to keep going. Main characters can turn feeble and wavering when they're not given critical feedback on self-improvement. Hence why you always see a flock of yes sheeple around them at all times. Yes sheeple always have to pander to the main character in order to stay in close proximity to power without overburdening or overthrowing the main character. And it's normally the person that's second in command that has to do the most. However, they also have the most power within the group. Sometimes even more power than the person that's actually in command. We'll call them the influencers. The influencers are the brains behind the actions and ideas, while they'll let the main character take the credit. If the influencer is smart, they know to not hog the credit from the main character. Otherwise, they're taking the limelight away from them. Because in the main character's eyes, the influencer is there because of them. As an influencer, they need to understand balance. The key is to not overextend your brilliance, your loyalty, and devotion, because otherwise it'll draw too much attention from the main character. If the influencer does so, then the main character is gonna feel neglected. Main characters will do anything to redirect that limelight back onto them. So as an influencer, you might wanna stay in the good graces of your main character. As an influencer, in order to stay in the good graces of powerful people, You're gonna have to invest your time and energy into the main character so that the main character can invest their time back into you. So be charming and non-threatening. So be sure to give praise and accolades to the main character for doing such an amazing job, even though you know very damn well they did absolutely nothing to help. And by doing so, the influencers will still be able to keep their jobs and still be able to push their ulterior motives from behind the scenes. Power number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. They also become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy and they will be more loyal than a friend because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. So this law can be a hard pill to swallow for some because the people that you least suspect to cross you will be the main ones that are closest to you, i.e. your friends. I always tell myself, people watch people. Friends will clock you when you least suspected it. When you, as a benefactor, are being generous and you expect nothing in return, that's basically an opportunity for them to size you up. People always want what benefactors have, because if they too can do it, then that gives them the closeness of power to be able to have control over people that are less fortunate, which sounds pretty messed up. Benefactors can create monsters, especially when it's not coming from a place of gratitude on the receiving end. From a benefactor's perspective, it'll always feel like the more you give, still won't be enough. And eventually over time, the grifter is going to expect more and more from you and basically turn the tables onto you to the point where it makes it seem like you owe them something, when in actuality, they've contributed nothing to the pot. And also take note that it doesn't necessarily equate to tangible things. It can also mean people's time and their energy, because we all know there are such things as energy vampires. If you ever have people like that in your life, I highly recommend that you remove them immediately. This is where the gift of discernment comes in handy. Get them away from your proximity, because at the moment when the grifter feels there's an opportune time to strike, it'll be too late before the benefactor realizes it. Now, I'm not saying don't make friends, because we need friends. We need to be sociable. We are social creatures. However, it's important to align with people in likeness to your strength, your power, and your competence. If no one in the group is lacking, then the group is gonna feel stable and secure. Friends are supposed to adore you, and you adore them. However, the moment the mask slips and the energy feels off and their face just simply doesn't light up when you walk in the room, I think it's time for you to reassess the company that you keep. As far as parting with your enemy, you really want to sit down and strategize what the common threat is. There is something that's hindering both sides, then align with the foe and earn their trust. There have been very unlikely partnerships that formed because they found common ground in their struggles, like the Rainbow Coalition. By creating mutual dependence and alliance between parties, it'll actually grow strength in both numbers and power. Power number 3, conceal your intentions. Keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. If they have no clue to what you're up to, they cannot prepare a defense. Guide them far enough down the wrong path, envelope them in enough smoke, and by the time they realize your intentions, it will be too late. So when it comes to this law, it's really all about the law of deception and manipulation. And there's actually 2 parts to this law. And the first part is, use decoy objects of desire and red herrings to throw people off the scent. I think the biggest thing that really sticks out for me is the art of flirtation when it comes to this law. As human beings, we love the idea of feeling desired and needed by someone. It really gives us a boost of confidence that we sometimes can't find within ourselves, especially when that attention is coming from a place that is out of the ordinary and something that you're not really accustomed to seeing. Because in reality, it is much better and more fun to have emotions than to deal with the boredom of security. So in order to fix that boredom, People lure others to make them want them, even though there's no mutual feelings. And in some cases, the seducer will have fits of jealousy to make the target want to make them want them more, because it goes back to the feeling of being wanted. But unfortunately for the target, they're not seeing it that way, because the seducer is painting the illusion that they are interested. However, the moment the target shares any hint of honesty about how they feel towards the seducer will quickly deflect. It'll be bad enough to the point where the seducer will make the target feel like they're Delulu and out of their league. When it comes to situations like this, I feel like there's 3 parts. 1, congratulations. As the target, you just embarrassed yourself. 2, the door of opportunity is permanently shut. And 3, you no longer matter to the seducer. It's like they basically just memory flashed themselves, because they truly didn't care about you to begin with. The game that they were playing is no longer fun because the joy of mystery is gone. Always have a slight hint of mystery to yourself. Give enough information for people to want to stay engaged with you, but don't give them everything to the point where they become disinterested in you. As a former people pleaser, I gave too much trust to people that did nothing to deserve or earn my trust. I felt that by being honest, that people would like me more because I'm an open book. When in actuality, I was setting myself up for failure. When you start to reveal your ideas, goals, and actions to people, some of them may not want to see you succeed. A lot of people underestimate the power of thoughts and manifestation. Just because you're sharing something positive, it doesn't always equate to people wanting to have a positive outcome for you. In fact, they could be thinking the exact opposite. It really all stems from jealousy, anger, and resentment. And the anger is not towards you, it's towards themselves. One thing I noticed is that the less I was telling people what I was doing, the more things were going right in my life. Don't be going around giving your Nana's secret sauce recipe away. Keep some things for yourself. Like, be honest, of course. Remember, don't chase, attract. Now, the second part of this law is use smoke screens to disguise your actions. This is flat out manipulation. This is the art where you completely sway your audience in one direction, but your beliefs and your actions are on a completely different path. The real intention behind this law is to gain power, but you must first earn the trust of the people in order to gain it. Once you've earned their trust, it'll dissuade people from asking any questions about what's behind the curtain, or in some cases, what's in the box.
What's in the box? What's in the f***ing box?
This is a very tricky rule, because if you're good at it, then you have control. But if you're bad at it, and people know you're bad at it, then you've just lost your crowd and you lost your power. As human beings, we are creatures of habit. So what we see is the things that we believe. So for you to really be able to pull this off, you have to not wear your emotions on the outside. You have to be unreadable. It takes a lot of patience and humility in order to pull off a poker face. If you're unreadable, it'll actually draw more attraction to you. For a lot of people, mystery is very intriguing, very intimidating, and also fearful. So which in turn gives you the power. Power number 4, say less than necessary. When you're trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear, and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. For this law, saying less is more. There's absolutely nothing wrong with speaking your mind. However, when you say too much, it'll actually put you at a disadvantage with your listeners. And here's why I say that. If people are truly listening to what the speaker has to say, sometimes the speaker will give context clues of their ulterior motives, or they'll give away their weaknesses. And now, the jig is up. For some people, they don't do well or feel comfortable when they have to sit in silence. So people will tend to talk just to fill the void with words, even if the words have no value to anything that's going on. People that seek comfort in silence are more confident and content in their own world. They don't need noise because they have no use for it. Power is in the silence that you hold, not the talking. I find this law very common in workplaces because the people that do the most talking are usually the ones that do the least amount of work because they know that their work is insufficient in comparison to the people that have the receipts that can do the job better.
No way. No way. I want to see the receipts.
So they use their mouths instead of their brains to prove that they can do the job. When it's time for the talker to actually shut up and show up, they can't do the job because they don't have the evidence. Really reminds me of that saying where only the squeaky wheel gets the oil. But in my point of view, that may not always be the case. Just because the wheel is squeaky doesn't necessarily that it needs oil. There could be a lot more mechanical issues going on with that wheel than just some dry bearings, which is why some good talkers are very good deceivers. My advice to you is not everything that comes to mind needs to be said. You lose your glow when you squander your words. Power number 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and you will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputations. Then stand aside and let the public opinion hang them. Building a reputation is a game on how you want to brand yourself. The goal is to build a reputation that people will be in awe of because you want to be relatable and trusted. However, if you decide to do the exact opposite and destroy someone else's reputation, the public will hate you and protest you for it. When establishing a reputation, you want to build it on kindness and generosity and charm in order to win the public eye. But if they see you coming to the dinner table with dirty hands, they're going to want to have nothing to do with you. I will say this though, there are times when people can be successful at slandering at other people's reputation just so they can redeem their own, but that can only get you so far. Because if you fail at it, then your reputation is no longer redeemable. There are people on this planet that have the gift to discern what is genuine and ingenuine. It's like an insult to their intelligence. So just be genuine, be honest, and be yourself. Because when you're honest, you have nothing to worry about. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying if you're wrong, then stay wrong. But if you started off on the wrong foot and you decide to turn over a new leaf, then expect a lot of questions on people asking what's changed. Now wrapping up with the last power, power number 6. Court your attention at all cost. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd, then or buried in oblivion. Stand out. Be conspicuous at all costs. Maybe yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. Now, I will say this is probably one of my favorite laws because of the fact that this truly is the definition of what it means of being born to stand out instead of trying to fit in. And for this law, it can go both ways, both good and bad. Either way, you're putting yourself out there because in this case, any publicity is good publicity. Because if you really think about it, the most hated people still get attention because it drives people to want to see why they're being hated so much. And in turn, it drives exposure to that person to gain them more success. More exposure equals more success. But I will say this law can be very hard because it requires so much creativity in order for you to remain relevant. Because the more predictable you become, the less intriguing you will be. And the less intriguing you'll be, you're just gonna fall off and people are just gonna find the next cool trend. The irony of all this is that people tend to feel superior when they're able to predict your next move. When you leave people guessing, you start to become an enigma. And enigmas are fascinating because it wants people to explore the unknown about you. Now, the whole downside to that is that people will begin to build this deceitful reputation about you when you're not around to be able to defend yourself. But if you are someone with absolute confidence, you could give two damns about what they're saying about you.
To tell you the truth, I don't give a.
And at the very moment that people stand in your presence, they can tell by your aura that you do not care, because the energy that you carry lets them know that their words simply doesn't matter. If you've made it this far without plotting world domination, go ahead and smash that like button, and also drop in the comments on which law that you will not be using on your boss. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the deep dives, because there's only like 42 laws left. And if you don't subscribe, your enemies sure will. Thank you for tuning in, and I do hope that you come back. I wish you nothing but peace, love, and light in your life. Peace.